So 3, 2, 1. Day number 2 from Big 12 Football Media Days in Frisco, Texas. The Kansas Jayhawks taking center stage today. Pleased to be joined by the athletic director at Kansas, Travis Goff. Travis, always nice to see you. Always enjoyable to see your updates on the progress at the booth. So let's start with that. Saw the field design, and I thought, dang, you put in a lot of effort to have those tiny little details, because as a KU guy, we're all sorts of hyped up for it. And then you take a picture of, here's what's going to look like if you get this seat. And I'm like, you're really not going to have a bad seat in the house there
for sure.
at the booth. So
for sure.
It's getting closer.
Yep.
And still under construction, still getting it all ready to rock and roll. So just your thoughts on where it all stands as of right now, as we are a little over a month away from the start of the college football season.
Well, first, Pat, thanks for having me, man. It's always good to spend time with you and connect with our great Wichita support base and far beyond that, of course. It's real. I went through there Monday, and I was probably in there for 2.5 hours just exploring, going through every concourse, going to that north end zone. That's the perspective that I took a photo. Bad photo. I'm not good with using these iPhones. Bad photo, but it didn't matter because I was showing the top row of the north end zone, and I was like, I gotta have like a seat over here to just come and hide away and watch the game. That was one of the coolest perspectives, and you're on the action, even though you're the quote-unquote highest row of that north. And to me, that was just another reminder of the commitment we made. The commitment we made was, hey, no bad seats. And not just no bad seats, but everybody should have an exceptional experience in this venue with their concourse, right, their access to concessions, to restrooms, to retail, their ingress, their egress, all those components. And it just reaffirmed to me that, you know what, we haven't done it yet. We haven't rolled the ball out and let people in the venue, but it was designed and is being built to accommodate exactly that vision. So we're just a matter of weeks away, man. I don't want to say they're not quite into the just punch list world. There's still a little bit more than punch list items going on, but everything's in a great spot, and August 23 is coming fast.
It is coming very, very fast. The fact that there's a week 0 game, you're probably like, dang.
Yeah.
Who signed up for the week 0 game?
I love it. Put the pressure on everybody, right? The heat's on everybody to do their part to be there. And then, of course, for us, it's a big Fox game, right? 5:30 on Saturday of week 0. The world is clamoring for college football because it's already started with week 0, and we're not the first game of the year, but that means I think people are going to be jonesing to find football, and the Kansas Jayhawks are going to be playing in front of a big, big national audience that afternoon in this new venue.
Yeah, for sure. Well, what's the overall response you've been getting as we continue to inch closer to the beginning of a new season? What's been the response like from donors, from the fan base, just in general, the people that you talk to on a regular basis? What's been the response so far at this point?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of ways to describe it. First of all, we wouldn't be here if we hadn't had an incredible response from our donor base. I mean, they've been just remarkable. It's been some of the names that have become synonymous with the amazing leadership support of KU that we know from over the years, but it's also been impacted by a newer generation of major supporters to KU and Kansas athletics. And so we're just so thankful, but they've been exceptional. The broader fan base, season ticket base has been awesome. I'd call it, anywhere from like over the top enthusiasm to like cautious optimism. And the thing I say about cautious optimism is two things. One, we can still be a fragile fan base. I understand that because of our past challenges, especially in the sport of football, even though we've continued to demonstrate that we're past that and we've got a sustainable thing going here. That's one. And then two, the other part would be like, hey, if you're a Kansas football fan, you've never had a great experience in venue. You just haven't. I mean, you've watched great games, you've seen great victories, you've maybe rushed the field and all those fun things, but from all the other components of what a facility provides, none of our people have been able to experience a first-class experience in football. And so that cautious optimism, I think, for plenty of people is like, gosh, I want to see and feel. Is this real? And they're going to see and feel it, and it's very, very real. There's no debate.
Yeah. All right, so house settlement officially in the rearview mirror in some ways, although you're still probably dealing with that on a regular basis. But it's finally complete. We've been sitting on it, waiting on it, trying to figure out what it all means.
Yep.
I'm sure you're having regular conversations on how it's going to look, the rev share, all that stuff. Well, now that it's finally complete, how have you gone about trying to go about handling your business, I suppose, now that this thing is a reality and it is a new world here in college athletics?
It's been 12 months in the making, I would say, Pat, when we look back to when we really got heavy into conversations, trying to understand and forecast what it was going to mean, and then how are we going to think about that application at KU uniquely to our place. And so, it's been many a months and countless man and woman hours devoted to it. I'm really proud of our staff for the work they've done to position ourselves, I think, in this new environment. And, it was a great moment when we got that approval, that the settlement had gone through and the judge had approved that. It felt like more than one big step forward for the industry, and it's not going to be perfect, and there's going to be bumps inevitably, and at some juncture I'm going to be frustrated, and I'm going to, quietly to myself say something negative about it. But I think broadly speaking, it's a really positive step forward. I think it's going to help provide some balance, significant guardrails that I think we're all hoping and have wanted to be in place. And so I'm one of the people that I hope many, right? I hope many in our space, but I'm certainly one that's bullish and optimistic about it, although I know there's going to be challenges, bumps, and frustrations.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and here's the other thing, too. It's just like when NIL became a thing, you had to have a ton of discussions because everyone's going, well, what does that mean, Travis?
Yeah.
What does that mean? I don't understand it.
Right.
I'm sure you're getting the same thing. Okay, Travis, well, what does it mean?
The reality is if you better just become comfortable being uncomfortable, comfortable not having all the answers, comfortable not knowing exactly how to put something in place. I mean, it's just the way we've lived for certainly years, and maybe a long time, but certainly these last handful of years. And so I think we've built up some muscle memory to be able to kind of manage through nuance, manage through uncertainty, and then adapt and adjust, which I think is one of the most fun parts of our work, anybody's work, frankly. Adapt, adjust, learn, evolve, and we'll do that. We'll do that this next year. We'll have made some reasonable changes from what we thought was the right way to launch in year one to then what the next cycle of year two and beyond will look like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would ask you the loaded question, how do you fix college athletics, but I'm not going to ask that question because it's such a loaded one, and there's so many things going on that it's really hard to answer that question. Travis Goff, athletic director for KU, here with us on the Pulse on ESPN Wichita 92.3 FM, broadcasting from Big 12 Football Media Days. Now, with the facilities and everything ready to rock and roll, what's it been like interacting with some of the football players, not having to – don't get me wrong, nothing wrong with Arrowhead, nothing wrong with going to Children's Mercy, but now you have an actual home. I can only imagine that probably gives them a little bit more comfortability. They can breathe a little bit more. I'm sure for Coach, Coach is like, oh, we don't have to worry about loading up buses and doing this.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's one thing that is going to be a huge just weight off the shoulders this year compared to last season that they had to deal with last year.
Yeah, no question. And they dealt with it masterfully. There wasn't a complaint. There wasn't a gripe. There wasn't an excuse, and there never will be about, we didn't really have a home. We were kind of vagabonds. We played 12 games off campus, on and on and on. Not a singular excuse from that program, from our guys, from Lance, from the staff. They were awesome. And I think everybody involved did a really good job of just being organized and out in front of as much of that as possible. But, 100%. Being back at the home of Kansas football there at Anderson Family Football Complex this, last 4, 5, 6 months, seeing the guys living again in that space, reacclimating and learning about the new spaces and how that's going to be of such great impact to them. And then, of course, seeing the day-to-day progress that's being made at the new booth. It's been super rewarding because ultimately, it's certainly about our fans and our donors and all the different community components of the project. But rest assured, a major driver has been for student-athlete experience. And I think, I don't know if I'll call worst to first, but it's worst to right up there with any in the country, period. Point blank, not even up for debate. It's a top 3 to 5 percentile facility for the sport of football in the country. I don't care if you're talking Big Ten, SEC, anybody in between. this thing rivals any of them in our student athletes, and our fans deserve it.
Brett Yormark had some comments yesterday, as he always does. I know he very much is loving the 5-11 format. Your thoughts on the Big 12 Conference having that type of format?
Yeah, I just think, transparency to the best of anybody's ability, fair, equitable, access, broadly speaking, to the best teams in any given year. That's the hope, and 5-11 gives us a better chance of that kind of fairness and potential access, and it gives us our best chance to make sure we've got the best teams in the playoff. And I think that's the objective. It has to be the objective. So I think 5-11 is, to me, as I think about not just in this moment in time, but I think about future implications, right? It's just really hard to coalesce around X automatic bids per conference and having that be locked in when we know there's no such thing as a static state in the sport of football. Any given year, right? Ask every single one of these Big 12 programs. Every one of them here yesterday and today has a legitimate crack at the playoff. That's not even hyperbole. That's just reality. And so I think when you think about 5-11, that fits that kind of approach and that kind of mindset and that kind of reality. And so I think that's the fairest way. And I think, again, if it wasn't that path, and there was the automatic bid component where it's weighted and different leagues get more and all those other things, I think that's a slippery slope. And I don't think that's necessarily how, our society sees sport by and large.
I know we are here talking football, but got to bring up basketball and just what it's been like the last couple of years, falling a little bit short in terms of expectation maybe. But, of course, when you have preseason number one, Coach Self will tell you, look, we don't – what does that mean, right? It doesn't mean anything. Well, this year I know it looks a little bit different on paper, but, you have Darryn Peterson coming in. You have Flory Badunga coming back. You have some guys in the transfer portal coming in. I know we talk about the hunger for football because there's definitely a hunger there. Well, we all know there's a hunger for men's basketball. You make the argument, though, it's tougher now more so than ever before in terms of just trying to, win a national championship. It's hard. It's not easy, especially in the Big 12 Conference. So what do you make of men's basketball for this upcoming year compared to the last couple that have just not been as good as what Kansas fans are used to? So what do you expect from KU men's basketball coming up this year?
I think it's been our best 6-7 months since I've been around. And by the way, I understand that when I say that, there's a national championship in there. So I'm not talking about the off season, sort of off the court components. I think we've had our best stretch of time, 3-6 months in terms of an off season. That's been, I'd call it at the forefront. I think we've got our very best version of Bill Self at the helm. He's energized. He feels great. He's excited. He's having fun. He's masterfully, it's hard for people to see and feel this all the time, but he's masterfully handled the roster construction this spring and into the summer. It required patience. There was time, and I understand it. People are, the sky was falling. But when you look at how it played out, and I'm not big on making major proclamations here because we haven't played a game.
Yep.
But I like this roster a lot. I mean, I just think, again, you only get a Darryn Peterson once in a generation if you're lucky. And I think you start there. You talk about the returning leadership that we have, guys that have been in the program that are going to make a difference, either coming off injuries or finally getting their moment. And then you talk about the added pieces, and I just think it's a really ideal outcome that, again, required patience, certainly some consternation along the way. And so I think that's exciting. Bill, again, at his very best, bringing in Coach Jock Vaughn, I think it's been every bit of what we hoped and anticipated it could be, to add an outside perspective, the NBA experience he's had. I watch him after like a workout. He'll stay on the court with Darryn Peterson and Jock, and Darryn will just be working. And I sit there and I watch Jock, and I go, man, that guy's done that with Kevin Durant one-on-one, countless sessions. Kyrie Irving one-on-one, countless sessions. I could go on and on and on, but I'll start with those two. Two of the best that ever played it in modern basketball. And I think, that's pretty good. That's pretty good experience, pretty good perspective that he's bringing to the program.
I'm sure you pay attention to other programs. You see the title general manager being thrown out there a little bit. From your position, How do you see that in college athletics? I think it's so unique because it's new. So as someone in your position, of course, you're going to go off of, coaches and
Sure.
what they want. But
Yep.
from a general manager standpoint, seeing that in college athletics, how do you perceive that? How do you view that?
Well, I think what's important is whether you point to somebody that has a title that says GM or not. I think what's important is that you have an operation that truly provides a general manager lens, approach, and perspective. In the sport of football, you got to have a GM. I mean, there's just no debating the magnitude of that roster. 105 or 105 plus is very much a dynamic that's unique to that sport. And then when you talk about the basketballs, men's basketball, women's basketball, whether it be other programs that might have some rev share, they just need to have a general manager mindset and approach. And if a head coach ultimately takes responsibility for his or her roster formation and has the capabilities and the people around them to then have the approach successfully of what a general manager lens provides, you can do it without somebody having that title, again, because of the size of the roster. And if you're me at Kansas, do I want Bill Self to own his roster, or do I want a general manager who's ultimately not the CEO of the program to own the roster? I'm betting on Coach Self every time, right? And so, doesn't mean there's not growing curves and things that we're all learning through, evaluating and fit and need and on and on and on and on. But, I think you can do it in a variety of ways. And the title of an individual is secondary to, are you actually operating in that manner? And we're operating, I think, successfully in that fashion.
All right, last one for you. So gracious with your time. Thank you so much. And thank you for answering all these questions, too, by the way.
Great questions, Pat, always.
They're just stuff that you see. It's such a new world, and you just want to learn it all. So it helps us to be more informed. So thank you for that. Baseball, just how magical of a ride was that? Just seeing the student section, the beer throwing, people paying for hot dogs, you paying for hot dogs, Hunter Dickinson paying for hot dogs. And I'm just thinking, man, back in my day when I was on that campus, that was not the case at Hoagland Ballpark. And the fact that I saw that just made me so happy. It just put a big smile on my face. Now, of course, you wanted better results when you got to the actual regional play, but what a masterful job Coach Fitz was able to do this past year for baseball.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was incredible. And I think there's multiple ways to describe the impact, Pat. I think, for one, the sport of baseball is growing by the year, right? There's a ton of energy around. It gets great exposure for an institution. I think it added value to the broader University of Kansas. And so I think the baseball story in and of itself is powerful. I think the other thing that I'm really appreciative is it reminded all of us, certainly in my ecosystem, that even if you have some innate challenges or innate perceived disadvantages, there's no excuses. If you got the right people at the helm, like we do in Coach Fitz, without any question, and he's put the right people around him, and then you support and you empower and you resource to a reasonable place, special things can happen. And I think our place was really hungry for that team in particular to remind the University of Kansas and Kansas athletics that we don't have to settle in any place. Midwest and weather's really hard, and baseball hasn't been like a core, tenet of KU necessarily. And, we don't have the best facility on nonsense. You get the right people at the helm, committed to it, building it in a unique fashion, or they've got an identity and a path. Man, that team was awesome. I'm so proud of Coach Fitz and the guys, and I'm so excited about where we're going. And they've certainly earned our continued support and investment.
Travis is wanting to pay for more hot dogs. So if you're listening,
that's right.
He wants to pay for more.
Let's do it.
So get ready for baseball.
Let's make it a regular
in 2026. Travis, really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for everything. Glad you're here. Glad your voice was able to fight through the challenges here for the day. But thank you so much. Always a pleasure, and looking forward to seeing how football goes and just the entire athletic year. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you, Pat. Rock chalk, man.